Ukraine!
Stop Russia!
Stop Russia! Stop Russia! Stop Russia!
Russia out of the UN! Russia out of the UN! Russia out of the UN! It's laughable, it's criminal that we need to stand here today in front of the United Nations, a beacon of truth, a beacon of security for the world, and a criminal is standing there with his team making up lies about Ukraine, slandering Ukraine, and finding and providing falsified evidence that Ukraine has broken the Minsk Accords. That is false. It is a lie. He is only doing this to promote genocide around the world, and he is about to actually inflict genocide in Ukraine. We want to stop this. We need to stop Putin. Say no to Putin. 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 Why are there different rules for Russia at the UN? Different rules for agreements made with Russia. Different rules for Russia at the Olympics. Different rules for Russia at geopolitics and business. Why does the world tolerate the cheating, the lies, and the malfeasance of Vladimir Putin? Say no to Putin! 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 I would like to introduce our next speaker. She recently spoke in Kyiv to a much larger crowd than this. Her name is Christina Balka, and she's from the Ukrainian American Freedom Foundation.
Vladimir Putin, without firing. Not loud enough. Vladimir Putin, without firing a single shot. I guess he's going to shoot 3 times. One more time. Vladimir Putin, without firing a single shot or launching his threatened full-scale invasion of Ukraine, has already critically wounded Ukraine's economy and the country great economic losses. We, as part of the free world, cannot stand by and watch. Undeniably, the economic front in this ongoing Russo-Ukrainian war is as critical as the military front and demands equal international attention. Over 233,000 miles separate the United States from Kyiv, and that distance is probably why most Americans don't know how much their normal, everyday life is already connected to Ukraine, or how much of what we take for granted actually depends on the peace and stability in Ukraine. Those who think a Russian war against Ukraine cannot affect you individually, you are very, very mistaken. As the current crisis continues to escalate, our costs of our day-to-day necessities will rise. Since 2021, Russia has been encompassing Ukraine from the north, east, and south with a potential invasional force. Numbering more than 130,000 troops, this military buildup has been described as the biggest in Europe for 3 decades and has ignited fears of the largest conflict since World War II. Unsurprisingly, Putin's threat of invasion has managed to scare the international business community, depriving Ukraine's access of international financial markets and directly causing Ukraine's hryvnia currency to dramatically depreciate against the American dollar. Due to the uncertainty of the situation, businesses have grown increasingly reluctant to remain financial commitments. Meanwhile, nearly all private domestic and foreign investments have ceased. Some people, when uninformed or misled, ask, why is Russian territorial expansion into Ukraine important? And what does it mean to us? To help everyone understand why Ukraine matters. Ukraine is the most fertile land in the world, the famous black soil. Over the past decade, Ukraine has become a major global player in the food market. According to the United States Department of Agriculture, their forecast, Ukraine in 2022 should be set to provide short of 25% of the world's wheat, corn, barley, and rapeseed, which produces canola oil, diesel fuel, animal feed, and oleic acids used from pharmacology to linoleum. Ukraine is the first in Europe proven to recoverable reserves of uranium ores. Second in Europe in terms of titanium. Second in the world terms of manganese and iron. And fourth largest natural gas pipelines system in the world. If Russian military aggression forcibly kicks out Ukraine from the world food market, or even just temporarily delays sowing, harvesting, processing, and supply, it will create a tsunami effect on a global scale. The entire arc of the states from North Africa to the Persian Gulf and South Asia. All this will lead to the fact that in the event of a major war against Ukraine, the increase in cost of living will make our current complaints about rising prices look like child's play. We are on the verge of the biblical 7 year of hunger, with a sharp rise in food prices. Therefore, we all should pray for the stability of this quiet and critical partner. Once again, Ukrainian democracy, independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity are being threatened by Russia. Clearly, history has shown us the wrath and terror of Russia. It can inflict on those that it wishes to dominate. And we must make every effort to deter the current and future aggression against Ukraine.
Ukrainians will resist! 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 I have the honor of introducing our next speaker, Nona Mamulashvili, who currently is a member of the Georgian Parliament with the United National Movement, United Opposition Strength and Unity. She is the president of the Georgian Swiss Business Association and vice president of the Union of Business Women in Georgia. She also happens to be the sister of a true warrior like herself, Mamuka Mamulashvili, who is the leader of the Georgian Legion, which continues to fight to protect the territorial integrity of Ukraine.
You're working now.
My dear Ukrainian brothers and sisters, my dear Ukrainian brothers and sisters, today we have the same enemy. When in 2008 Russia invaded Georgia, our President Saakashvili said that next is going to be Ukraine. Who, if not us, understand what we are going through? What is the suffering that we need to go through in order to get the freedom from the Russian Empire? And this is the same war we are fighting. This is the same enemy we have. And my brother, our Georgian men are fighting next to Ukrainians today, because this is where is the line between the civilized world and the barbarian Russia. We have shed our blood, but that is not for no reason. The freedom is very expensive, and Russia is doing everything to bring Georgia and Ukraine on their knees. But we have shown that we will not support, we will not back up, we will not go under the Russian influence. And this is the principal fight that we have here. And I have the tears in my eyes when I was in Ukraine last week, and I saw how ready Ukraine is. No Russian Empire will defeat your people. No Russian Empire will put you on your knees. This is the fight we are in together. This is where the line between the civilized world and the barbarian is going. Our fight is in Ukraine today, and we are standing with you. And I'm here to support Ukrainian cause. I'm here to fight for my country's independence and freedom. And this is why we have to stand with Ukraine. The whole civilized world has to stand with Ukraine. I am proud that we are fighting together. I am proud that we are in this fight together, people. Thank you very much. And we are going to win this war, because no evil will conquer. We will fight Russia with all our might, with till the last drop of our blood. And I'm sure that the evil empire is going to be defeated in Ukraine. Thank you.
Ukraine will overcome! Ukraine will overcome! Ukraine will overcome! Thank you, Georgia! 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 Next, we have Andrei Novliansky, representative of the Ukrainian World Congress, which is the International Coordination Assembly of all Ukrainian public organizations in the diaspora. It represents the interests of over 20 million Ukrainians, and we are mad.
Today, as everybody can see, it's not just Ukrainian flags with us today. So we thank you, Donna, we thank the Georgian community, because we stood here in 2008 on this very soil, demanding justice for Georgians, as we stood with our Belarusian friends and their true Belarusian Republic flag when the Lukashenko regime decided to punish them even further. And we thank you for standing with us, united. This is a working day. Why aren't you at work? Because you're here because the call went out. I see the call of the organizations here, the different organizations on the poster, and all the ones I see, the leadership of Ukrainian women's organizations, Ukrainian fraternal organizations, our brave Ukrainian American veterans. They came out here today because the call went out. As you heard from our wonderful leader Irina today, there is a Security Council meeting happening. That Security Council meeting is so important that the Secretary of State canceled his trip to Europe, and he is speaking today inside the United Nations. He is speaking inside the United Nations. Because we are hearing what you are hearing and what the press is hearing, that any day now, as President Biden said this morning, all indications show that something very bad will happen. Who knows it better than our Ukrainian diaspora? Who knows it better what destruction of their homeland is? Who knows better what refugees look like? For all of us, for all of our parents and grandparents that grew up in refugee camps. Who knows it better than us that we don't want this to happen? So we want, at the Security Council, a discussion to be made and decisions to be made. But as Irina pointed out, there are communists in there. Am I being hyperbolic? No. Because at the Security Council, there are 5 permanent seats. The United States, Germany, the United States, United Kingdom, France, China, and the Soviet Union. To this day, Union is in the Charter of the UN as having a permanent seat. That is not the Russian Federation seat. That is the Soviet Union seat. Understand that. Understand when they're making a decision. In the words of their ambassador, they are continuing the work of the Soviet Union at the Security Council. That is why we are here. We know what happened. You know what happened. Your parents, your grandparents, their children, they know what happened in Ukraine. We don't want that to happen, and that will not happen so long as we all organize. We thank everybody for coming, not just our Ukrainians, our Belarusians, our Poles, our Georgians, our priests, our ladies' organizations, our veterans, as I mentioned before. But we all thank you, and the representatives of the Ukrainian government, thank you for being here with us today. We thank you for being here today because we will be here today and anytime a tragedy that is occurring today in the United Nations, anytime something like that happens, we will be ready to call them out. I thank you. I thank you to keep on organizing. Call your friends. Support yourself. If the worst happens, pray. Go to your church like we had prayer meetings every night this week in St. George's. Pray, turn to yourselves, but organize. Organize as we did in 2013. Organize as we did in 2004. Organize as we did in 1991 and in the 90 years before then. We will overcome. Дякую! І слава Україні!
Пані і панове, друзі, my home is in Australia, but my heart and our Australian hearts are with you and with Ukraine. People may say Australia is 15,000 kilometers away. What could it possibly have to do with Ukraine? But you will remember, several years ago, a certain airplane was shot from the sky by Putin and his mercenaries. 40 Australians died on that plane. Australian blood has been shed on Ukrainian soil. These two nations now have a blood bond to each other, an obligation to stand for each other, and they do. Tony Abbott, the Prime Minister of Australia at the time, a personal friend, stood strong in the face of Putin's aggression. In fact, he told the world that he would shirt front Mr. Putin when he next saw him. Shirt front in Aussie means, I'm gonna kick your ass, motherfucker. We in Australia speak plainly. Mr. Putin is a fucking mafia thug. And the only way you beat fucking mafia thugs is to stand up to them. Whether you're Aussie, Yuki, American, or otherwise. Hey, hey, ho, ho, Putin, hui, lo. Hey, hey, ho, ho, Putin, hui, lo. Hey, hey, ho, ho, Putin, hui, lo. Slava Ukraini!
Just another note on the Crimean Peninsula of Ukraine. This is not the first invasion. This is another follow-up. The first invasion was the Crimean Peninsula of Ukraine in 2014. So CBS, NBC, Fox News, get it right. It's not the first invasion. This is the follow-up to the 2014 invasion of Crimea. But I want to make another note. One thing for sure, Russian soldiers are fighting for nothing. They know it. Full stop. They don't have skin in this game except for another land grab that's Ukraine's. Full stop. Whereas Ukrainian soldiers are fighting for their land, for their survival, for their historical history, for their mothers, fathers, and grandfathers. And that's why Ukraine can succeed, will succeed, and has gained tremendous allies. We have to pat ourselves in the back and say also thank you to Ukraine, because it mobilized the whole world for support. And that is a big, big accomplishment. We want the world to know Russia's national policy, its vision for itself is on reverse gear. Its past is full of land grabs, but the future looks grim for Russia. So it wants to resurrect its past. But Ukraine is on the opposite direction. It wants to free itself from the past and go into the future. And that's what we're fighting for here. That's why we're here, because Ukraine has a tremendous, tremendous future. And Crimea is, was, and always will be Ukraine.
Я ще хочу співати. Today, we're standing here at this place on 1st Avenue and 47th Street, screaming loudly for the world to see that we cannot let this genocide that is about to happen in Ukraine occur. And that means we need to stop Putin now. Stop Putin now! 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 Putin's cronies are there right now in that building across the street, giving falsified evidence that Ukraine has broken the Minsk Accords. That has not happened, and we are sick of the lies. Stop lying, Putin! 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 And we know that the world is with Ukraine, and we are grateful to the United States and to NATO to supporting Ukraine and its right to sovereignty. But we need sanctions. We need sanctions now. We cannot wait for Putin to invade. As soon as he invades, there will be 50,000, 100,000 Ukrainians dead. Does the world want that on their hands, on their red hands? No. So we need to stop Putin now with sanctions. Sanction Russia! 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 Sanction Russia!
their freedom. And I have seen in the eyes of the soldiers that I met in Ukraine last week that no dictator, no barbarian, imperialist Putin will defeat this country. I have seen your struggle and I have read your history. I have never met the people like you who are fighting till the end, who are putting their whole heart. And I have seen in the eyes of the soldiers that the future is with Ukraine, that the tyranny of Putin will not defeat you. We will not knee in front of the barbarians, and we will defend our democracy. Georgia today is next to the Ukraine, and we have been in this fight for centuries, and we will continue until we get rid of the imperial Russia, of the tyrant that does not want the freedom for our people, that is trying to bring back our countries under his influence. This is not what we have been shedding the blood. This is not what we want. The sovereignty is each country's decision where we want to join. It's not up to Russia to decide where Ukraine and Georgia want to be. And this is definitely that we said no to Russia and we said no to Putin. We want to be with West. We want to be with the Western civilized world. We want to be the part of NATO. And this is not up to Putin to decide where our countries are going. So we will continue this fight. And thank you again. I am proud to be here with you today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Georgia. Thank you, Georgia. Thank you, Georgia. Thank you, Georgia. And thank you for reminding us that Ukraine is NATO. 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 And let's tell the peace-loving nations that are meeting in that building right now that they are actually harboring a terrorist. They are harboring criminals. They are harboring a country that is promoting genocide all over the world, not just in Ukraine, but all over the world. And right now, they are at the doorstep of Ukraine, but tomorrow they will be at the doorstep of Poland and Lithuania and Germany and France, and Ukraine is fighting for their freedom. So let's tell the world and let's tell the peace-loving nations there that they need to stand for Ukraine. 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 Let's also tell them that they should kick Russia out of the Security Council and put in Ukraine. Ukraine is the Security Council. 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 And don't get me started.
That's it.
Do you hear my voice now? Okay, good. In 1991, if we had done this right, we would have put those characters on trial. Remember, Nuremberg was held for the Nazis. We never had a trial for the communists. We never had the KGB guys in jail for the crimes they committed. And guess what? That KGB guy is now running the Russian Federation and wants to return the Soviet Union, folks. If we had done this right the first time, we wouldn't have Putin right now. Putin was and is and will always be a war criminal. You heard
Putin is a war criminal!
Putin is a war criminal!
Putin is a war criminal!
Putin is a war criminal! And the world has to really know that Putin has to go. Putin has to go!
Putin has to go! Putin has to go! Putin has to go! Putin has to go!
I don't know how to use it.
Everybody that's here has to remember and put out the information. In 1994, Ukraine, which was the third largest nuclear power in the world, gave up their nuclear arms at the Budapest Memorandum. That Budapest Memorandum was signed by the United States, it was signed by the United Kingdom, and it was signed by Russia. And that memorandum stated that with the giving up of the nuclear arms, that the territorial integrity of Ukraine would be defended by those three countries. Obviously, that's untrue. We knew then that Russia would not keep their word, and they're not keeping it now. It is very important for all of you, when you're talking to your senators, when you're talking to your congressmen, when you're talking to the press, keep on reminding the 1994 Budapest Memorandum. They must honor the Budapest Memorandum. Honor the Budapest Memorandum. Honor the Budapest Memorandum. Honor the Budapest Memorandum. Honor the Budapest Memorandum.
Budapest Memorandum. Honor the Budapest Memorandum.
What do we want? Putin out of Ukraine! Putin out of Ukraine! Putin out of Ukraine! Where's your army?
I'd like to introduce my new ambassador, the women from the Women's Association for the defense of Ukraine.
Thank you very much. First of all, I certainly need to thank everyone. Now, with small arms to protect her children from the tanks that are standing at our border. I'd like to thank everyone who's standing with the